Hello, Internet! I'm Elliot the Purple-Haired Doofus, and welcome to my spoiler-free review of The Wastelands by Stephen King. Now, this book is the third book in the Dark Tower trilogy, which means that while this is spoiler-free of this book, it might not be spoiler-free of the first two. So, if you haven't read the first two, you might want to pick those up. This book picks up about a month and a half after the last book, and we have Roland, Eddie, and Susanna, and they are finally starting their journey towards the Dark Tower. The majority of this book is basically like Lord of the Rings. It's funny because they even make mention of it near the end of the book, and it's a whole lot of traveling, not a whole lot of story. Maybe until about halfway into the book, and then things start to get interesting, but for the wrong reasons. A character from a previous novel comes back in what I think is a situation that should never ever happen logically in this story. But let's cover some of the good of this book. Eddie is a lot funnier in this book, and I enjoyed that. Susanna is, well, Susanna. Roland is just his hard-ass gunslinger self. Okay, so I can't tell you about one aspect of the book because it's not covered in the synopsis on the back cover of the book. If it were, I would tell you, but it wasn't, so I won't. The good of this book is Roland really explains well how to get to the Dark Tower, but he doesn't explain well what the exact location of the Dark Tower is, and that's a little annoying. Some of the characters that they come across are very fun, and they're self-contained within the stories that are told. So if I were to tell you about which characters are fun or not, that would probably ruin it for you. So I won't. My biggest problem with this book is Stephen King seems to rewrite his own history constantly through this book. Meaning he doesn't really think about what happened in the first two books before describing what's going on in these books, and before moving his characters along, to think of whether or not that is a logical step for this story to take, considering the last two books. And that really, really annoyed me. That's why it got such a low rating for me on Goodreads, is because logic just kind of flies out the window on this one. I have a few friends that have said this is my favorite book ever, it's amazing, it's great. And I suppose if I could have gotten over the logical missteps that Stephen King has throughout this book, I probably would have enjoyed it as well. But since those logical missteps kept on pounding me in the head, I couldn't possibly give it a decent rating. And it's not like because of those logical missteps, I'm going to stop reading the series. I'm going to finish the series. It's coming in a box from my mother. It's already been suggested to me that I read one of the books out of the order that it was published, and I probably won't do that because I like to enjoy books the way that they were originally released. It's just the way I am. I'm kind of crazy like that. It is funny that this book did have a spin-off that was just released this year, and it was a children's book written by Stephen King, and I believe that the entire text from the children's book is in this book because it is described as a children's book in this book. That's not too much of a spoiler, I don't think. I did like the bouncing back and forth between our world and Roland's world when it did happen, because if it's too much high fantasy for me, I tend to get lost, I tend to get bored. The fact that there are characters in this book that are from our world and I can connect with those characters is a lot easier for me to digest and enjoy than in the first book when it was just everything was in Roland's world. If you are able to look past the logical gaps in this story, you will probably love this book. I could not. I wish that I could. I wish that I could have enjoyed it as much as my friends have, but I just couldn't, because every time they were brought up, I'm like, that is wrong! And my head was just like, this makes no sense! It made me sad to actually feel that. The other thing that I will say is, after you finish this book, you're going to want to dive right into the fourth book. I hope that you have it handy. And I'm glad that I'm not reading this as it was being published, because I hear that there was a 6-year gap between this book and the next book in the series, and that would have sucked. I'm telling you right now, that would have sucked. Have the fourth book handy for yourself if you're planning on reading this. I do not have it currently. Like I said, it's on the way from my mother in a big box of books, along with the rest of the Dark Tower series. Overall, I gave this 2 out of 5 stars because I could not get past the logical gap. And it over-explains some stuff and doesn't explain enough some other stuff, and it really, really annoyed me. But like I said, I am planning to continue the series all the way to the end. Hopefully before the movie comes out. I don't know if I will be able to, because I still don't know the release date of the movie, but I'm hoping that I will be able to finish the entire series before the movie comes out. Do not forget that the next book that I will be reading is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. Go out and grab it by any legal means necessary. Borrow it from a friend, borrow it from a library, buy it at a bookstore, buy it on a Kindle. I don't care what you do as long as it's legal and you read it before I ruin it for you. I've been Elliot the Purple Haired Doofus reminding you to watch your pajama radius, and I will see you all in my first video from The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. Toodles!